Okay, Mr. Matthew Teifke. I'm excited to hear about this. What took 10 months and how
Yeah,
you
man. It was
how those conversations went.
I'm still tired from it, dude.
I bet. I bet that was exhausting.
Yeah, so I'll dive into it and if there's questions, please ask. But we've closed 452 units. We closed it the last day of the year. And that's with the TR3 capital. And it was a 10-month process. So the biggest deal we bought before that was 216 units with me and my two partners. And that was last year. And all this has been with the same seller. So we actually have four more of his same deals under contract. We're hoping to close Fund 5 in the next 60 days. Would love you guys to check it out. That's my pitch there. I'll put the link in there. But man, it's been a journey. Like for 12 years, 13 years, I was always buying properties on my own and just whatever I could afford. I'd make a little bit of money and buy something. And I never really wanted to raise capital. For some reason, I thought I'm gonna have all these bosses, and I just didn't like that idea. But over time, I realized that it's really the only way to get scale, unless you're sitting on $100 million yourself. But like all these buildings that people own, any downtown, they're owned by multiple people, right? Or all these apartments. So it's a kind of a long journey to get these deals. I've been meeting this one particular broker in Austin. I always try to meet, like, stay in touch with all the brokers and know the players. And I was buying houses and I'd go meet with them and I'd say, I really want to buy these apartments. And he'd tell me like the price that, it would take. And I just couldn't make sense of it because they were selling for like three caps and four caps. And when we would underwrite it, they wouldn't make any money. And I'm like, I just don't get it. Like, how is anybody else buying that? Full circle though, 5 years later, they really were kind of gambling that the market was going to go the same direction that it had been going. Like rents were going to keep increasing, rates were going to stay the same. And when that changed, these sellers they had to sell. Like the deals that we're buying them at the debt amount or a little bit above the debt amount. So, anyways, I'm just giving you the insight of like how we got these deals. For those that are like actively tying up deals, all of this is hard. I talk about it all the time, but even just to get control of a deal is a challenge, especially for us when we didn't own any big apartments, right? Like to convince them to give you a 452, that was a challenge. And so now I think that will be a challenge that we won't have as much. But long story short, we bought the 215 and we bought the 452, and we had to raise close to 10 million on those two deals. And it was just me hitting the streets, man, like hundreds and hundreds of conversations every day, pitching it. I'm pitching it here. I'm pitching Fund 5 here in a sense, for friends and family. And, we bought close to 70 million last year, which is more than I bought the 10 years combined. I'm making more money on those than I made on the 10 years combined. And I always want to give like real insight, just so you guys can understand. Me personally, from both of those deals, I might make around $6,000 a month. That's a lot of money, right? But like, it's not that much, especially for the amount of work that's required. But I think the value will come in like having a successful deal with people. Maybe we can have a track record now of like getting these deals easier, paying out investors and getting more deals. And hopefully, Lord willing, we'll close 1,000 units this year. Um, and I would personally say that if we don't close 1,000 units, I would consider it somewhat of a failure. Not like the whole year, but just like we wouldn't be hitting that goal.
Yeah, setting goals.
Oh, yeah. So, man, I don't know exactly how many, but I just said yes to everything, 16 events. Somehow I end up at Mar-a-Lago for one event. I'm like, well, how the heck am I at Mar-a-Lago? Then I got people, defriending me on Facebook because I'm at Mar-a-Lago.
Because you're at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, yeah. But that was an experience, man. And it was just events, 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 people, fund of funds, pitching it, talking to family offices. We've had the money for the deal for a while. Like we've already raised the money for like 4 or 5 months before we closed the deal. But the interesting thing for me and the learning was like we had to close last year to get the tax write-off, right? And so we use that as like an anchor point with the seller and the bank. Like this has to close this year. And when we get to like December, like Christmas, essentially, we have no idea if it's going to close or not. They're not really communicating that well. But literally the last day, like 2 days before, and then the last day, everybody just starts like running fast. Title company, the seller, and they're like working to get this closed. And so before we close, they get a settlement statement that comes out that the seller has to bring $1.5 million to the table to sell it, to close it. And the seller's like, I'm not doing it. Like, he's like, just tell them they can just take it. They can own it. They can foreclose on me. So then everybody's looking to us like, you guys, y'all going to bring that money to the table. And Alex, my partner, really just held the line. And it was like a gamble move. Like we didn't know if we had to bring it. We actually had the ability to bring it to the table because we had raised the capital for the deal and we had enough there. But we held the line, and I mean, literally, dude, 5 minutes before the end of the year, we closed the deal. The seller ended up bringing half that money to the table, and the bank waived half that money.
Wow.
Yeah, and so like
Wow.
the kind of the learning was like I personally don't think of banks as, you know, people or like groups that negotiate. It's like, oh, the bank this is what they're owed. It is what it is. But they will negotiate. And they're not really good at negotiating because they're not entrepreneurs. They don't like stress. They don't typically negotiate. They typically have all the leverage. And when that goes out the door, the entrepreneur has an opportunity to outdo the bank, is how I think about it.
Yeah.
You know, these guys aren't even working yesterday. You know what I mean? They're on holiday, right? So like they're just different breed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's like the quick story. I think it's valuable to know that the banks can negotiate and that you got to hold the line and you know us leveraging the anchor point of like we have to close this year. And we're telling them if we don't close this year, we'll still close in January or February, but it's going to have to be a different deal. It's going to be like different terms.
Yeah.
So, man, it was just wild. Like, had no idea we're going to close it. Biggest deal I've ever done, bigger than every other deal I've ever done combined. It closed. We start making some money on it. And now we got challenges of managing it, right? Now another set of challenges comes up. So that's like my quick rundown. I'm happy to dive into whatever, insight is needed or, little tips and tricks or thoughts or comments or whatever it may be. But I think it's cool to just see a deal like that close on the last day and the way it did. And like, man, it was just a game changer for us and all of it. We only had 6 investors on that deal,
Oh,
which was nice
wow.
too, because we had a couple $1 million check writers and a couple fund to fund groups. So that was our fund three had 30 plus, and then fund four had a lot less, and then fund five will have like probably 10 or 11 investors.